a creator is what I would say. So, a little bit about me and who I am. I'm Emily. I was meant to do your careers week and do a session on personal branding, which I know Amy did and overtook when I was at Glastonbury. So some of the things in here might slightly repeat of what Amy's gone through on my presentation in regards to personal branding, but I'll try and keep it as separate as possible. I'm head of talent here at Fearless Adventures. So my role when I originally was brought in was to recruit for our investments. Since we've launched Fearless, we've created a subsidiary business which I run, which is called Basecamp Talent. I do it all on my own, which is basically where I recruit for other businesses, acting as like a contracted internal recruiter, fractional internal recruiter for those businesses, helping them with everything that they need to know within kind of the recruitment space and them hiring. So it's a little bit different for me to be talking to you from an influencing perspective. But I basically built up a bit of a brand on LinkedIn, and that enabled me to get my job at Fearless Adventures. It's enabled me to directly generate business revenue from it, but also build a brand and appear on podcasts and panel talks. And yeah, I've directly generated some personal money by brand sponsorship. So for like to preface, I don't have any like skills per se in copywriting. I've never done a course in how to be a content creator or anything like that, but I'm coming at it from what I would say is probably the most organic way, where I think I just know what works from someone who consumes content as well as someone who's created content without any of that official training. So I'm going to basically give you my advice today and talk to you through my journey. It's not going to be the same journey for everyone else. It's not going to be on the same platforms as everyone else. I'm not going to tell you there's a right or wrong way to do things. It's however you see fit. But I'm going to give you a bit of a general explanation of how I've grown my brand and following, and have been able to, cultivate a lot of opportunities. I don't have TikTok. I don't really use Instagram. It's not my space, that those platforms. But I can tell you about LinkedIn, and I know LinkedIn really well, which for a lot of you, for everyone, you can build a platform on LinkedIn if you've got a job, or if you're freelance or whatever you do. There's always a space for you on LinkedIn. Like, I don't want to go and create TikToks. Like, I don't want to do that kind of life. Not to trump on anyone who does that. It's just not my area. So I will talk you through kind of LinkedIn and how I've got to where I've got to with it. Please feel free to add me or connect with me. So yes, I have built up a community of about 26,000 followers on LinkedIn. I started posting in 2018. So a bit of a background on me. I graduated university in 2018 from Newcastle University. I studied history, which has absolutely zero kind of touch on what I do today. I did take a lot of good transferable skills, including how to write, how to debate, how to like read a book and consume a book. I've done all of that whilst at university. Finished university, didn't really know what I wanted to go into. Kind of fell into recruitment, if I'm honest with you. I was like, I'll make some money and then I'll go and travel or do whatever's next. Ended up falling in love a little bit with recruitment, which will shock some of you because recruiters are seen as, some of the worst type of people. But I fell in love with a specific type of recruitment, which is where we could add a lot of value without just, chasing money. So I worked at a recruitment business for 3 years, and then I got my job at Fearless Adventures because I was aware of Dom and Steve. I think I was connected to both of them on LinkedIn. Dom messaged me on LinkedIn saying basically he was starting a new venture at Fearless. So part of the reason I got my job at Fearless Adventures is because I had a brand, and that's kind of landed me to where I am today. It's not in my job description to post on LinkedIn. It's not got anything to do with my job to build a brand. It's given me a really good platform to kind of work with people like Dom. But what I would say about your brand is it's one of those things that you can take complete ownership of. So, if you're a freelancer, great, you have your own business and there's benefits that come with that. But when you're working in a corporate job, a startup, whatever that might be, so much of the work that you do usually goes to the greater good of the business, which is amazing. But when you move on from that business, it's hard to then take all of those things with you because you don't own it. And what I say with a brand is it's one of the things that in my life that I have complete control over. It's something that I own. It's something that I love doing. And it's given me a space outside of work to create opportunities for myself, create opportunities for Fearless Adventures. So that's a bit of my backstory. So like I said, no experience in marketing, no experience in copywriting. Why am I talking to you about building a personal brand though? Like I said, organically, I've grown my following on LinkedIn to 26,000. I landed my job at Fearless Adventures because of my brand. And if I'm honest, I probably get good job offers, maybe once every 2 weeks, so that actually would be probably quite interesting. General job offers that, I don't think I would necessarily take up maybe twice a week. But I think a good thing for me is I'm pretty sure that if I left Fearless Adventures or something happened, I know there's a good 5 businesses that I'd really want to work at that would take me on. And I've only got those eyes on me because of my brand. And there's a real power in the fact that I never applied for my job at Fearless Adventures. I probably wouldn't apply for my next job. Not to say I'm amazing at my job. I think I'm good at my job, but I think I've enabled myself to have a platform which has allowed myself those opportunities. I speak on podcasts, panels, and events. So I'm going to back to my university tomorrow to do a talk to alumni. I'm going next week to an event in Manchester on Wednesday, which is me talking about how to be a woman in leadership. And then, I've appeared on tons of different events. I'm now at the point where I can start charging for those events. So build up a little bit of a reputation where I can say, what's your day rate? What are you looking to pay? What's your speaker fee? And I've directly generated revenue from both a business perspective, but also personally. So I've done some brand sponsorships with a recruitment tech platform. But also I generate business through Basecamp Talent. All of my, posts are around recruitment and internal hiring, and it really benefits me to push Basecamp Talent out there because people will start messaging me. They might want me to hire for them, and that directly generates business for Fearless, but also for me personally. This is not me. I really don't want people to think that I'm just there talking like me. Like, it's really not. I'm trying to talk about in a wider sense the benefits that you can have from building a brand. So like I said, Don messaged me in 2021. I did a LinkedIn post and he put, hey, I love your LinkedIn post. I'm looking to bring a really good recruiter in-house when you venture. Let me know if it's worth speaking about. And I can safely say the trajectory that my career was on previous to Fearless and the trajectory that my career is on now is worlds apart. Like, not only in terms of, the conversations that I'm involved in, the opportunities that I get, but financially it's better. I've met some of the best people who completely changed the course of my life. I'm launching my own e-commerce business, which is completely backed by the fact that Fearless Adventures are an e-commerce investment company. So there's so many opportunities that I'm given through working at Fearless Adventures that came off the back of building a brand. Like I said, I'm very aware that some of the stuff will be repeated, but I think Amy's perspective and my perspective are going to be different. So I'm going to talk to you about building a personal brand and the benefits of it and being a content creator. You can you can be a creator on whatever platform you see fit. What I would say about content creation is there's 2 things that you've got to know is one, where's your audience? Like, I'm not going to build a brand on TikTok. There's massive benefits to me building a brand on TikTok, but I don't want to do that. But if I owned an e-commerce fashion business, I would definitely be building a brand on TikTok. But also if I was an entrepreneur, if I was a founder, if I was a freelancer, I would be building brands on TikTok, LinkedIn, wherever kind of you want to go, wherever your audience is. So there's branding your business, but there's also branding yourself personally. And it's how you ever want to brand yourself. Like, I have friends who are influencers because they do cleaning videos or a day in a life. But I also have friends who are creators because they basically talk about how they've started a business. So it's however you see fit in the area of which you want to do it in. But I would say the big thing about branding is like the conscious, intentional effort to create like an influence around you as an individual. So positioning yourself as an authority in your industry, elevating your credibility, differentiating yourselves from the competition, and like ultimately advancing your career and circle of influence. So if you want to be known as the top like beauty content creator, you're going to be on a platform where the audience is people in your space, which is obviously going to be something on Instagram or TikTok, but also you're going to be positioning yourself as kind of like credible within your space. And that might be, I bet some of you might know Bambi on Instagram. She basically talks about skincare and like she puts herself in a position where she's credible, where She goes into facts. She talks scientifically about the benefits of beauty and skincare. Like, if that's your world, that's something that you want to be going into. But find your niche, think about what your niche is, and then make a really conscious and intentional effort to dial down and dig into that niche a little bit more. What I would say is building your brand doesn't mean that you're working on becoming famous, or that you're, wanting to become the most well-known person just for the sake of it. Like, you don't want to get 100,000 followers just to get 100,000 followers. You want to create a circle of influence around you, because I work with a ton of influencer agencies when they're looking at hiring, and when all they talk about when they're finding content creators across any platform is like, it does not matter how many followers you have. It doesn't matter how many likes you get. A massive thing for them is the conversion. So how are you converting those views, those likes, those followers into dedicated brand supporters of you, and also customers for you? Like, the way an influencer agency is going to work with an influencer is that they want to see a return on investment. So they want to see, how is that, if I put X amount of money into paying this person, am I going to get 3 times that return back? Because the 3 times that investment back, because they want to make money from the influencer or from the creator. So try not to get too bogged down with like vanity metrics and likes and followers. I always get people to messaging me on LinkedIn and like, I hit 20,000 views on this post. Isn't that great? Not really. Like, that's not the metric for success. It's a great indicator of, are you reaching the right target audience? And it's a good indication, but that's not what you should be basing your success on the platform off. So for example, my LinkedIn post, I did a LinkedIn post about a month ago now. I got 3.5 million views on the post. I didn't get a single bit of business or anything that benefited me from that post. If I'm being really transparent, I didn't get any invites to podcasts. I didn't get any brand collaborations. I didn't get any hiring managers messaging me if I wanted to work with them. 2 weeks later, I did a post and it got like probably about 10,000 views and maybe about 30 likes. And I got 2 roles to hire for. I got an offer to speak at an event in London, which they were going to pay me for. And I got a potential podcast invitation. Like, it really does not matter about the vanity metrics. Like, try and get away from that. Try and stop looking at the likes, the views, all of those things. Keep it in the back of your mind when you're starting out as an indicator of success in terms of, are you reaching the right people? But don't use it as a thing to base your success on, because it really does not make too much of a difference. And another thing to probably notice is those 3.5 million people, once I looked at actually who was engaging with my post, there was like builders in Scunthorpe and Derby. I don't care if Bob the builder, pardon the pun there, I actually didn't mean to say builder, but like Bob in Derby, I don't give a SHIT if he is engaging with my post. Like, he's not my target audience. He's not who I want to be connecting with. Give me a founder in London. Give me a HR leader in Manchester. They're my people. So think about how your brand caters towards your people. And this is across any space. It doesn't matter whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on TikTok, whether you're a beauty influencer, whether you're a business influencer. You have to be connecting with the right people, and you have to be connecting with your customers who want to buy off you because of your brand. So stop working on becoming famous, going viral, or anything like that. Focus on building a really strong, credible brand with your content. Going viral is not the same as having a good brand. It's pretty easy to go viral. I know I could do 5 posts tomorrow that I'd go viral with, but none of it feeds into my brand. So I'm not going to do it. So like, try to think about the long-term success of how you post and how you build credibility. I know Amy also talked about this as well, but I think it's really important to speak about when it comes to content creation, being an influence within your brand. Every person, this is taken from Simon Sinek. If you get any chance to listen to his podcast or read his book, please take it, because he's one of the best people when it comes to personal branding, speaking, like just really building an authentic brand. Simon Sinek is really good at talking about it, and he has like a no bullshit approach. He's very good at what he does. So he does this when it comes to an organization, but I'm going to apply it how you do it when you come to influencing and being a content creator. So take it from a business perspective first. Every business knows what they're going to do. Take Fearless Adventures. Like, we know what we do. We provide investment for e-commerce businesses. How are we going to do that? Most businesses know how they do that, but like, we know how we do that by empowering founders and giving them the right tools and resources without expecting too much back from them. Why are we doing it? Well, we want to build a founder-led community where business leaders are empowered to build their own brands without constantly having to answer to stuffy VCs and private equity firms. We are very clear on that mission, which is why we do well as a business. But take another business, like a recruitment business. So many recruitment businesses have no idea why they know what they're doing. They just want to earn some money and it's a lifestyle business. Nothing wrong with that. But when you're scaling that business, it makes it really difficult to keep your mission at the center and core of what you're doing because you don't really have a clear one. The same is said for your brand. No matter on what platform you're doing it, you really need to have a why of what you're doing at the center of your brand and like why you're putting content out there. So are you doing it because you know it's going to get 10,000 likes, or are you doing it because a brand's told you to do it, or are you doing it because you genuinely believe in the product that a brand is telling you to promote and you really believe in what they're doing, and your followers and your community will see that you believe in that too. So try and keep that diagram at like the forefront of your mind when you're thinking about content creation, when you're thinking about building a brand on whatever platform. What's your why? Like every time you post, why am I posting this? Is it because it resonates with my brand and my community? Or am I doing it because I'm getting paid 5K and it doesn't really keep at the core of what I'm doing? And I think that's where you see influencers that are able to really grow over the years. Like Molly May, whilst, some people really will disagree with her views, and I included disagree with some of her views, there's a reason that she's done so well off Love Island. And I genuinely believe that one of the reasons is because whether it was true or not, she was quite authentic and real in her videos of Tommy and her having an argument or whatever it looks like. I didn't watch too much of Molly May, but there's a reason that she grew a really strong community. There's other reasons there, and like her privilege and whatever will feed into that. But I think if you think about like why are you doing what you're doing, and you keep that at the forefront of what you're doing when you're building a brand or you're trying to build a community, you'll really fly ahead of the rest because it will just be a sustained like growth of your community and your followers. I'm gonna just like quickly shoot through some posts that I've done and why I like what I gained from that. I did a post probably about a month ago now. I know, gosh, it was about 5 months ago. Basically around kind of employers and a quick reminder that annual leave should not be used for X, Y, and Z. That managed to land me a couple of speaking gigs and like a podcast gig. Another one that I did about like culture and hiring, and like the 5 things that you need to know, and then another one about management red flags. I do really clear short form copy. I don't really include too many images in my posting. Like again, find a like rhythm and find a way that you're going to reach your audience. One of my biggest pet peeves, and I know people say like people are calling them like the Facebook or like the LinkedIn police, and where people are like, LinkedIn isn't Facebook. I do think there's a really good thing about having like a personal bit to your personal brand. But there's a flip side of it where like I do think LinkedIn is becoming really like Facebook, and you see young, attractive people posting pictures of themselves on a beach in a bikini and then saying, these are my 5 top tips of how you build a marketing agency. That to me is not building a good brand. That's selling your body for likes. And what I always like to say about your brand is like your brand should transcend you, like your age, where you're working. Like I should leave Fearless Adventures tomorrow and my brand and my community should still stay really strong because they should be following me, not my brand. Same with how you look. Like that's going to change at some point. So if you just built a community around posting pictures of you, posting selfies or looking stunning on a beach, one, who's the community that you're building? Is it really the people that you want to be building it around? And 2, like, is that going to stick with you in 20 years time when you want to still build some credibility? That's not to say like don't post pictures of yourself, just be really aware of like what's the content that you're putting out there. And yeah, look, I think there's also a really good thing about having boundaries when you come to content creation. Like there's certain things that I will not post on the internet, and there's certain things that I don't want people to know. But I know some people that post everything on the internet. But like if you are going to do that, you kind of got to open the doors to like you are going to face some criticism sometimes because you're opening up your life. So you are going to expect something a little bit back. So I just be really aware of like what's your niche, what's the stuff that you want to create, and like does it transcend anything about you other than who you are as a core person? in your life at that moment in time. When you are building a platform and anything, let's just say I'm building like, let's just, okay, take being a beauty influencer. Let's just take that. Let's say I want to be like a fashion and beauty blogger on TikTok. If I'm going to create that and I want to influence people with that, you've got to consume content in order to know what you're putting out there is either on trend, it's right, it's, you know, whatever it might see fit. So you've got to think about how you are consuming content on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to speak to you about how I consume content for LinkedIn, because that's the place that I build my brand. So like, I have a really strict way that I consume content across my week. I hate social media, if I'm being really honest with you. Like, I don't love what it can do to me. Where I can't stand doom scrolling. I hate how it sucks people in. Like, I think social media, I don't hate social media. I hate some parts of social media. Social media is amazing in some aspects. I know some of you will have agencies around it and will create a life around it. I don't hate it. I hate certain things about it. So what I've created in my life is I consume content in a very specific way, which I think has led me to become a thought leader in my space, but also not get sucked into the world of scrolling on LinkedIn at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. at night. So my space, I need to be hot on news. I need to be hot on what's trending in my area um of kind of hiring, e-commerce, marketing agencies. I need to know all about that. So every morning, I don't have social media on my phone basically, other than Instagram on the weekends. But in the mornings, I wake up, I don't go on my phone for the first hour. But when I do that, I read The Guardian and I read BBC News. Coming into work, I consume, like, I've listened to The Guardian Today in Focus, which is an amazing podcast for anyone that should want like 30 minutes of like news every single day. And then in the evening, when I come home, I listen to like Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, or I listen to a podcast around business, health, whatever that might look like. And then I also read all the time, like fiction, nonfiction. I must be on my like 16th, 17th book of the year. What that's really helped me do is, one, be really cautious about the kind of content that I consume, but also like, I know how to write and I know how to speak. And when I write on LinkedIn, I know how to speak in a way that people will understand me and that's useful to people, rather than speaking in like really long essays or quite confusing language. So I would always think of like, wherever you're going to build your platform and become a circle of influence, think about how you're consuming the content in order to get to that point. If that includes you needing to look at trends and be on Pinterest and look at what's hot and fashion and what's not, do that, but be really cautious and careful about how you're doing it, so that it's becoming around how you build your brand rather than just doing it for the sake of doing it. I love Amelia Sordell. If whatever you create a brand on or create content on, please go and look at Amelia Sordell. Like, she's absolutely amazing as a personal branding strategist. She's gained like 200,000 followers on LinkedIn. She's a great thought leader in this space. But like, again, reiterating on the like consumption point, a big part of why Amelia spends so much time on LinkedIn and social media is to consume content. Like, we can't become a content creator in any space if you're not understanding what people are responding to. Like, if you want to become a content creator, start posting content and then look at your analytics. What's performing, not what's not performing. Is it performing because it's a trend? Is it performing because you actually just it was a really good video? Are you creating a trend? Like, you've got to look at the analytics of it. Like, if you want to be a content creator and if you want to become an influencer within your space, understand kind of where the trends are, look at the analytics, look at the data side of it, because the data is going to tell you and lead you in the direction of where you need to be going with it. Like I said, I've had some brand partnerships. I'm really careful for two reasons. One is that I know there's so many crap recruitment tech platforms out there that are like, I'm really careful of the ones that I work with. But two, I only work with brands who I've used, who I trust, who I know that work. Because at the end of the day, it comes back on me. Like, if someone doesn't like it and I've put a post out about that they should be using it, it's going to come back on me. So I had a brand reach out to me that basically wanted me to create a campaign around their CRM. I wanted complete creative control over kind of the content and the tone of voice. So I was like, look, I'll write the post. You just sense check, then make sure that it's okay and it's in line with what you want, and then it will go out there. So there's a really good way that you can start building brand partnerships across any platform. The power of networking. I really have this like core belief that networking can be one of the best things that you can do, but also on the flip side, you can just become this busy bee that attends every networking event, but you get literally barely anything out of it, but you just wanting to go to these events just to be a face and to look like you're going to events. Networking is amazing. Use your Slack community, use the Basecamp community, but also find your community wherever you are. Like I go to events where there's other people within my space. If you're a gaming influencer or content creator, go out to that space and go and speak with people and share ideas. Like don't sit in this bubble where you just sit there and create content. Like go out and speak with people and see what's, you know, new, what's interesting, and try and speak with people within your area. And realize I've shot through this, well, 35 minutes. And what we'll do is we'll just leave loads of time to ask for questions. My concluding points from the talk today is that, like, whatever you're doing, whatever platform you want to create on, whether it's for a business, whether it's for yourself, I really, really promise you, if you do it for yourself, you'll see great results. Is always thinking about like strategy and consistency equals success. Like there's something called like strategic authenticity. Like just because I'm being strategic about how I build my brand does not take away from the fact that I think it's as authentic as it can be, but you have to be strategic about it. Like if you're telling me I want to become a top influencer within painting on TikTok, I'm going to tell you that like it's a great platform and there's a really good opportunity to build a brand on there, but you're going to have to be hot on it. So I'd be saying to you, post 5 times a week. Like every day you should be thinking about content, how you can be putting it out there, think about trends. Like I would be telling you to really take it seriously, because if you're strategic with it and if you're consistent with it, it's always going to lead to success. That might take 2 months, it might take 6 months, it might take 2 years, but every post that you do, whatever platform that you do it on, there's a real power in the fact of like being strategic and being consistent with it, but also being really authentic and true to who you are. You can build a brand, you can become an influencer, you can become a content creator in whatever platform you want. Like it is the easiest thing to build a brand. And I promise you, with anything in regards to building a brand, it's the lowest cost and effort, but the biggest and highest reward. Like I've spent 0 on my brand. And from the flip side of it, I've gained financially a lot, but also from a networking and from a community perspective, even more. So I think if you just think about it in that way, it's a really easy thing to get your head around the power of doing it. I'm really aware that there's so many points here that have come from a personal branding chat, and I know a lot of influence marketing agencies. So if there's any questions anyone has about influencer marketing, I can try my best to answer. But I'm talking about it from a content creation perspective and the influence of that. I think I can also speak about that too. So this is my final point is that if you really want to think about being a content creator or increasing your circle of influence, and you're just worrying about the fact whether to post something or not, as Amelia or Sordell said, stop worrying about whether it'll work or not and just post it. So that's what I would say. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Rachel.
Hey, I was wondering, with your like LinkedIn posts, do you like have a set time in the week where you kind of schedule what you put out and like what topics you're gonna kind of discuss, and
Yeah.
how far in advance do you kind of do that?
Yeah, so I have a notes page on my phone, which I never come up with content, by the way, at my desk. Like I'm always in the shower, in the gym, or on a walk, or in the car, wherever I'm like on my own and I have silence and I'm not at my desk. That's always where I come up with my best content. I always say like my trainers at the gym absolutely hate me because I just like whilst running start writing ideas down, or when I'm in the car I speak to my phone and say like, "Hey Siri." So I think about content in that way. So many LinkedIn influencers will tell you you need to be planning your content a month in advance, and you need to be posting 5 times a week. And then every morning, I love the typical every morning you need to be you need to be commenting on 3 to 5 people's posts and yada, 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 yada. I don't do any of that. Like I don't do any of that. Can I say that now in hindsight, when I built a brand before everyone really started building on LinkedIn? Yes, like started building my brand in 2018. So I had somewhat of a platform from there. So maybe I'm not, maybe those are the things to help you get started. But I think there's a real power in just thinking about content a week or two in advance is enough for me. Like, I have all the ideas down on my phone. I always try and post around 3 times a week. That will fall off. Like, I've had a fall off since I've come back from Glastonbury because work's just completely swept me away. And this e-commerce business that I'm launching is right in the middle of launching, and I'm moving house at the same time. So I've taken a bit of a step back. But the reason I have taken a step back as well is because I don't feel good in myself, not good in myself. I don't feel right in myself of the content I want to be posting. So I'm just not going to put anything out there for the sake of it. But when I get back onto it, I'll be really aware of it. So yeah, basically I plan somewhat in advance. So I think about on a Sunday, 3 posts that I'm going to do the week. I write somewhat of a draft, but then on the morning of, I take myself away and I just sit and I just edit and edit and edit that post again and again and again. Like, I never ever post the first draft of a post. I'll edit it like 3 or 4 times. I'll read it out loud. I'll try a different tone of voice. And that will really help me. You can use content calendars with posting. Content calendars on other social media, I think, is great. I've always seen success when it comes to our I've got a Basecamp Talent Instagram, and it's always really good to plan ahead for that one. LinkedIn, I don't do it. There's a reason I don't, is because I've always seen my posts don't do as well and reach my community as much when I plan ahead. And I don't know if it's because LinkedIn wants to keep you on the platform as long as possible. And I'm sure the same with TikTok and Instagram. So they probably want you to be doing stuff on the platform in order to then get the content out. So I don't post it. I didn't put it in a content calendar to then post, because it always just pushes me further down the algorithm. So I'd write and post within LinkedIn. But if you're a community manager and you've got 6 different profiles, I would definitely tell you to use a content calendar. It just, for me personally, when it comes to my brand, I don't do it. If that helps at all about kind of how I plan and do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.
Amazing. Haniel, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so a lot of it was covered by Rachel's question. So you're saying you post roughly 3 times on LinkedIn a week?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really starting to love LinkedIn and seeing how powerful and how useful it is. But I was wondering about reposting. Is there any value in reposting content?
So I never repost in terms of so there's 2 types of content that I would talk about here. Is like, if you see a post by someone you love, take trying to think of a really good content creator on LinkedIn. Take Steve Bartlett does some really good posts. If you took Steve Bartlett and you really liked his post, I wouldn't just share the post. I would take his key points, take the points that you agreed with, and write your own post on it. So, and say that you're inspired by Stephen Bartlett, because you're taking ownership of an idea, but then you're repurposing it to make it how it fits in, one, with your brand and your tone of voice, and 2, like, you're interpreting it in your own way, and it's a really good way to get extra content. I copy and paste my old content all the time, like stuff from 2 years ago. I copy and paste and repost it, because no one's gonna remember that I did that 2 years ago. It's a really good way of keeping fresh. There'll be some times where I think the way that I said it 2 years ago is not all how I'd say it now. So I'll amend a sentence. But someone said to me once, and I thought it was a really good idea, if you want to start using LinkedIn as a really strong platform, or even just creating a brand across any platform, get a camera, get a phone, probably a camera if you can. If you can get a camera and just some recording equipment for a day, go sit in front of a camera 2 hours and basically record you talking to the camera about 20 different topics. Like, I could sit in front of a camera and be like, I'm going to talk about employer value proposition. I'm going to talk about personal branding for an internal recruit. I'm going to talk about hiring, salary transparency, yada, 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 yada. And I'm just going to do clips of me talking at the camera. I would take that content, I would download it, and I would cut it into 100 different clips. I would use those clips as videos on LinkedIn, and I would subtitle them. I would also take my ideas of what I've spoken about and do a LinkedIn post that's written. I would put them into carousels. I would do all of that, because what you're doing there is you're almost taking your brain dump and you're repurposing that content in a million different ways. And that's one of the strongest things that you can do when it comes to repurposing your own content. So I'm not the best at that. I could get better at doing that. But I think that's, if I was to think about how I'm going to get content out there regularly without constantly sitting down and doing it. Like, I appreciate that some of you are busy people, you own your own businesses, and people who don't even own their own businesses are busy, and you've got busy lives. So try and like work out the best way in which you're going to get your content out there. That's what I would say. Is that okay?
No, brilliant. Thank you.
Perfect. Duncan, do you want to go? And then Pedro? I'm really sorry about it all.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking today, firstly. My question, because I was having a conversation with Joanna yesterday about this, of LinkedIn, and especially as a consumer, what kind of posts, if there is kind of like a broad range of posts that you find engaging, what are the most kind of, when you're personally like going through LinkedIn, what are the things that you find engaging?
So I'm actually going to tell you the post I don't like, which might help in like just cutting off some of the stuff that like you maybe I don't love. I hate like clickbaity titles. I think there's a real problem at the minute on LinkedIn, which is like the quickest way to 10x your revenue within an e-commerce business. Like, there's no quick way of doing it. You can tell me the good way of doing it, or when there's people that are maybe being a little bit disingenuous in terms of like how their business is doing, and they're trying to just create content that's like for the sake of it, of being a founder of a business. Emilio Sordell, I think, basically said, you can either post content on LinkedIn where you're agreeing with people or you're disagreeing with people, but I think there's a real power in doing one of the two. So you can say something where you're like, I disagree with this narrative of X, Y, Z, or I really agree with this narrative of X, Y, and Z. What I think some people are doing on LinkedIn at the minute is just for the sake of posting, is that they are really doing like middle lane content that's just slightly bland. So I think it's almost you're finding people sitting on the fence, and I get why, because it's a real scary thing to put out there content when you are trying to, when at any minute someone wants to cancel you. Let's be really transparent. So I think, but there's a real power in knowing what you're saying and standing by what you're saying, which is where the consumption of content comes into it. Like, I know what I'm saying because I've experienced it, and I'm also backed it up because I'm doing my research on it. So I think there's a real power in like actually just making a point, like whatever the point might be, sticking with that point and standing with it. There's something that I've found that junior marketers are doing, and there's two ways that you're going to see this going, and one way is not that good. So take, did anyone see when Rimmel did that CGI content where they got a tube and they did the eyelash, and the eyelash was going through the tube? The amount of people that I saw who were junior marketing executives saying, this is amazing. And that was it. So they've got that kind of content from Alfred Samba, who was really senior at Gymshark, and he does that kind of content. Well, he's amazing, and he's built a bit of a community on doing that. But what I think is, there's two things that I don't love about that. One, anyone can repurpose content and just say this is amazing. Well, you're not really commenting on like what's good about it, what's not great. But there's another thing, which is like they've got massive budget to go and do that. Like, that's not that difficult for them to do. Take a tiny e-commerce business that has no money and no influencer budget, and they create a post or a piece of content that goes viral or does incredibly well. That's something to talk about. So I think there's something in that where like become an industry expert, because I think what people worry when they're a junior marketing executive, well, I'm not an expert, but you are, because you know TikTok better than me. You'll know how the algorithm works. You'll know what content does well, what content doesn't do well. Don't go for the easy option. Go for the stuff that no one else is talking about. Spend 10 more minutes a day and do some research and create content that is really engaging and tells me a story and gives me something that I come away from LinkedIn and been like, God, I learned something new today. Dom always says that the best part of Social Chain was when they had no money, because he was like, people were just coming up with the most ludicrous, creative ideas. But when you have so much of a budget, that's not taking away from L'Oreal and what they did. It was amazing in terms of, you know, it got spoken about. But are they the real champions of the marketing content world at the minute? Probably not. There's other businesses that can do that. So I would say that as like, try and find a stamp of like what you can talk about, but don't go middle of the lane. Like, make a point, whether other people disagree or not, just stand on one side of the fence, because I think that's where you'll be recognized for the content that you do. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.
No problem.
Can I just real quick add to that in terms of, because I don't know how I imagine that you do a lot of your own community management.
Yeah.
How do you do that in terms of, do you police comments, or do you just let it run through?
I just let it run. Do you know what? I've had quite a lot of which is probably natural. I've had people that really disagree with me, and actually, I don't mind people disagreeing with me. I quite like a debate, and I'm I think the problem we might have now in society, if I'm going to go all sociological with it, is we don't allow for opinions that differentiate from our own. So I love a debate, and I love people telling me, disagreeing with me. I will admit when I'm wrong. What I won't do on my pages, feed into hateful, offensive comments. So, but like, I didn't believe, I always respond. I always spend time on community management, because someone's responded to my post and I'm going to respond to them. But yeah, I just have a line where I don't respond to hate.
Thank you.
No problem. Pedro, do you want to go, and then we'll do Dorota?
Yes, Emily, fantastic insight that you're providing. Thank you. Actually, my question is partly answered, but I will nevertheless raise it. So I was just looking at your profile, and I'm looking at some of your posts. They have like 280 comments, right? So my interest would be rather on the logistics of answering to that. Do you go through all of them, or you just say, okay, I will pick the first 3, 4, 5 that are most relevant or interesting, and then the other ones just an emoji or something like that? How do you go about that?
I usually have a cutoff of about 3 days. So like, every comment for the first 3 days I'll respond to, and then post that. Let me get rid of that. Post that, I will stop, and just because otherwise it's just going to get a little bit too much. But yeah, it is one of those things where you really have to like dedicate time to it. Yeah, I kind of wish I'd
the same applies to any platform. I follow some people in Instagram that have an incredible amount of followers, and I always ask myself, well, how much time a day do you need to invest, not necessarily in creating the post, but on answering, on connecting with your community, which is what you do in the end,
Yeah, for sure. So the e-commerce brand that I'm creating at the minute, like, I'm very aware that like we're gonna have to be on TikTok and Instagram and all the things that I'm probably not the most keen on doing, but I'm very aware that like that's how you build a community. Like, the reason you build a community is because you feel like a person that has engaged with something or someone or whatever that might be. And it's so easy as a small business owner, and it's so easy as like 26,000 followers is literally nothing in the grand scheme of things. And it's so much easier now. The more senior that businesses will get, and the more senior that a person will get within a brand, they'll have like community managers that will support them. But I think that like there's a real, yeah, I just think that it's not even a power in it. I think it's just a really good thing to respond to comments. But yeah, after 3 days, I usually have a bit of a cut off where I'm like, post is done, move on, I'm going to do another post. So I try to, yeah, like rein it in. But I will say I respond to every single LinkedIn message that I ever get, like ever. And that is quite draining. But I think if someone's messaged me, I would love to message. I would loved it if when I started in my career, if someone had messaged me back about a job or something. So I always message back. But yeah, I think there's a real power in that.
Thanks very much.
No problem. Dorota, is it Ali?
Yes. Hi. Thank you very much for amazing presentation. Very, very interesting, very insightful. I wanted to ask you, because once you start building your personal brand, you have some idea what you want to show and how you want to present yourself, and what tone of voice you want to use. But for example, if at some point you start working for a company, and a company has like a different idea about itself and a different tone of voice, do you think it makes sense to, because when you represent that company in a way, being an employee, so should you like think of adjusting your tone of voice and, you know, your personal branding in a way that will kind of represent the brand you're working for, or just be completely different? Because I'm thinking of Monzo, because I've been watching Monzo a lot, and they have this guy who's their social media lead, Richard Cook, and basically they like speak the same language, so you can like almost hear Richard Cook talking for Monzo and for himself in exactly the same way. And I'm not sure if it's the way to do it, because like obviously you have to keep in mind that you're representing a business, so you have to stay professional, but you know, to be authentic, maybe there's something you should keep for yourself as well.
Yeah,
what's your opinion on that?
it's a great question. I'm going to give you my answer, but this is because I work for Dom, who is the most chill person when it comes to anything. So my ideal is that you don't follow however their tone of voice is. Like it's your brand. You don't own the company. You're not like, you're a representative of the company, so that's something to be aware of. But from that point onwards, I don't think there's anything in which. So at my previous business, my CEO policed every single thing that went out there, and there's a reason when I finished that business, I was on like 6,000 followers. And then now I'm at Fearless, I'm at 26,000, and I'm there for the same amount of time. So, so there's that. But then on the flip side, when you don't work for someone like Dom, which is a lot, you know, you can't disgruntle a founder who doesn't think like that, because that's just their truth. And that's all that they know. They probably don't know the true power of a personal brand. But they might say, we want you to write in this tone of voice. What I would then say is like, if you have a brand or you want to build a brand, I think it's courtesy to sit down your employer and say, I'm looking at posting on LinkedIn. I'm going to build a bit more of a brand on there. You know, what parameters am I working within, if any? And can we have a conversation about that? I feel like we don't want you to post this, but why? I don't think there's any problem, as long as there's no like, why don't you want me to do this? And you know, it's combative, whatever the word is. There's just there needs to be a conversation around it. But I think one of the best things a business leader can do is encourage their team to build a brand, because like the more eyes that are on me, the more eyes that are on Fearless. Like it only benefits Fearless Adventures, because I'm never going to speak ill of Fearless. And I don't really speak on comments that I know will be on topics that I know are going to be slightly controversial. It's just my thing that I don't do. So like, there's not really too much that I could potentially be getting in trouble for. But I think it's always a conversation that you should have. So idealistically, you do whatever you see fit because it's your personal brand, and you shouldn't follow it just because of who you're working with, because that takes away your tone of voice. But then that's idealistic. And I know not every business is going to work like that. So I think it's just, it's dependent on who you work with, and it's dependent on who you work for and however they see fit.
Thank you.
No problem. Dawn, do you want to ask your question?
Mine kind of bleeds into the last question really, because mine was about, you were saying you may plan a post maybe 5 days ahead or whatever. So the question was about being reactive to what's happening in the industry, in the world, politics, whatever. Do you literally bite your lip and go away and think about it? Are you reactive? And if, like the same question as before, is that taken away from your sort of being congruent and all of those kind of things?
Yeah, so no, it's a really good question. So my boyfriend finds it really odd, because he's like, a lot of people will know you or will think they know you because of the community that you built. And what I always say is like, but they don't know me. Like who I am on LinkedIn is not who I am to my core. Like it's what I represent from a business perspective, but they don't know me. But I'm very careful about that. So I won't post certain things. I don't post my family. I don't post whatever. I don't post about that on my LinkedIn. I'm really careful about that, because I know what I want. I don't want people to know certain things about me. On the flip side, you know, people in the office are very aware of some of my views on certain political things and whatever, because you know, Dom and I love a healthy debate. But it depends. Like if it's something that I am passionate about and I want people to know that I'm passionate about, I'll go and post it. But there's some things that my personal brand on LinkedIn is not about my personal life. It's about my business life. So if it affects my business life, that's when I'll go and post about it. But I'm not a TikTok creator. I'm not an Instagram, like where maybe it is a bit more personal, but that's maybe my line. And I think there's I'm really sure on that. Like I don't budge on things like that. So sometimes what I see now is people probably chasing those viral things and they know it's going to make, like, I know some of the views that I have will go viral in a good way, I would think, because I think I'm a little person, but like that's not my place to then go and say that from it's not my business brand. Like, so whilst I'm saying personal brand, I'm saying it from my personal brand from business perspective, but like it's not my personal brand of who I am as a person. And I think that's not right for everyone on LinkedIn. Like some people are really open about their personal life on LinkedIn. That's just my boundary that I set, that I don't want people to know. They don't know me. They know me from a certain angle. And I think it's however you want to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Samantha?
Hi, thanks so much. Really appreciate this talk. I'm wondering, as someone who hasn't explored personal brand in LinkedIn before, and that's your platform that you're so well versed in. You showed us a few of your posts and how you kind of generate that engagement, but I'm wondering, how else do you use LinkedIn to build a community apart from posting and then replying on comments? Like, what does that actually look like on that?
No, that's I love that. That's a great question. There's so many things that you can do on LinkedIn. Like my whole thing, by the way, with branding is like, you don't have to build a brand because you post content. Like I know people who have great brands who don't post because I see them at networking events. They write articles, they write blogs, they have a brand in a different way. So I think there's a real power in that you don't have to be plastering your face, or don't have to know exactly who you are from a content perspective in order for you to build a brand. Like I know some people that have the worst fear when it comes to posting, but are great at events, and I know them through that. So they've built a good brand from doing that. What I would say is LinkedIn is a great place for like meetups, starting conversations with other people in a similar space to you on message. Like it doesn't have to be on a post for the world to see, but you can join webinars, you can join community groups, you can join events, you can literally you can build a brand on the back end of LinkedIn by doing all the stuff that no one sees, but that it's a brand for you. Like your brand is your circle of influence. Like I said, it's not about people knowing who you are, who don't need to know who you are. So if you're meshing people within your space, within your community, that's you building your brand without posting content about it.
Thank you. So just to kind of feedback what I heard, it's almost like it's not just about what gets shared online. It's also the interactions with community face to face that then you connect online, and you've got those maybe even stronger connections because people have met you, they know who you are, you've had that face to face interactions, and then people might recommend you, and it just spreads from there.
Yeah.
I think on the question, then it's like, how did you grow to 26,000 followers? Have you connected with all those people in person, or how would you say that people have shared or found out about your work online?
Yeah, so I built up somewhat of a community when I was at my previous business. So when I was at my previous agency, not many recruiters had started to build a brand. So I think it was just natural where, like, if I'm honest, like a lot of it was down to like timing, and like, I don't know if I'd have built the same community now. I think I would have done somewhat of a similar job. But I think that helped me get my name out there. And like, I'll be transparent, like being linked with Dom and Fearless, like does help. Like it has its benefits because people know Dom quite well. And his community and his brand is strong. But yeah, I'd say that. And I was just really strategic with it. Like I coined quite early on that there's a market for it, and that not many people in my space were being thought leaders. So I was like, why am I waiting for other people to be a thought leader? I can be one. But what I would say on the previous comment of what you said about seeing people face to face, there is such thing as a bad personal brand, where you can have the best visual brand on LinkedIn, and if I meet you and you are nothing like how I expected you to be, and if you're rude and you don't come across a certain way, by the way, I'm not saying everyone has to be in a perfectly good mood all the time. There's times where I've met people, I've been stressed, and I've probably been like, I can't do this right now, and they might be like, oh, that's not, what I see on LinkedIn. I mean that from like a maybe business work perspective, not just a person I meet in an event. But that can have a bad personal brand. Like Dom says to me, like, your personal brand, the gravity of my brand comes from the fact that when you meet me, I'm the exact same person that I come across online. If anything, I'm a bit more bubbly on in person than I am online. But I think there's, you know, power in that. And that, I keep saying power in that, but like not only in how you are as a person, but what you speak about. Like if I go on a panel and I can't hold a conversation about all the stuff that I'm speaking about around hiring and culture and all of that, then like that's not reflective of my brand, because I'm coming across like I'm an expert in that space. So I think there's a way that, yeah, it's sometimes smoke and mirror as well. Like it's great to have good content and to look good, but it's you have to back that up with actually being a good person when people meet you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem. I think that's all the questions that I'm getting. Yeah, I think that's it. I actually have to hop off now because I actually have a call about a talk that I'm doing at my university on Saturday. So it's really lovely to meet you all, and I like apologies if this is influencing within a space or creating in a space which is just not for you for LinkedIn. What I would say is that like everyone can create a brand on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has the in regards to ratio of people that post on and people who actually use the platform, there is so much space for you to create on LinkedIn. Like it's like 1%. Like I know someone who's a well-being, she does like well-being retreats and all of that. She's created a massive brand on LinkedIn by hosting corporate well-being days and retreats and giving advice and all those kind of things. So there is a brand and space for everyone on LinkedIn. So please start posting. What I always say to everyone after the end of this call is like, give me 6 months, give me 3 months, post consistently. If that's 1 time a week for you, if that's 5 times a week for you, post consistently on LinkedIn or any platform, come back to me in 3 months. And if you've got nothing from it, not even a connection or a new friend or a new opportunity, I'll hold my hands up and we can have a conversation about where I might be wrong. But I genuinely would encourage you all to just give it a shot. And yeah, you'll already get some good community engagement because of all the people that you've got in your Slack channel now and who are on the Basecamp Skills cohort with you. So lovely to meet you all. Slack me, LinkedIn me, any questions, please just let me know. But bye.
Thanks, Em.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.